Bryon Kroger of Rise 8. It's great to talk to you. Thanks for your time today. What are the reasons that organizations and government should move to DevSecOps environments, and what are the reasons that they're telling you that they're actually doing it? Welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's been over a decade since Andreessen penned that software is eating the world, and that certainly applies to wars and to governments as well. And I think that, in the Fortune 500, we see amazing disruption happening from tech companies. What does that look like when you apply it to government and to defense? Well, the last place we can afford to be disrupted is on a battlefield. And what we know from companies and organizations that wield software effectively is that they're able to disrupt their much larger, much more established competitors. And so I think we face that on the battlefield today. And also, there's a different problem playing out in the delivery of critical services to our citizenry. And that's that when we don't come through on our promises as a government and to deliver on our promises in a digital world, we have to have digital government. When we don't deliver on those promises, people get fed up in ways that are not healthy, wanting to just throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to their government rather than working towards meaningful change. So in both areas of, larger federal government and especially for defense, I think we're ripe for disruption if we don't get this right.
Does that mean that the customer experience focus that the federal government is working on right now is kind of on the right track as far as the reason that it's necessary to get software right in the context of a DevSecOps environment?
100%. I mean, you should think of government as a service, just like any other. It's a nonprofit one, but not unlike businesses, you have to be able to come through on an amazing service to your customers, or they'll abandon you. That's what I was getting at. And I think the way that we do that, the way that you achieve a great customer experience, is through DevSecOps. That has to be at the core of what you do, because the only way that you can figure out what works for the customer is by delivering it to them and then measuring. And what DevSecOps really does, we get talking about tools and processes, but what you're doing is you're unlocking a feedback loop with your customer. And the tighter you can make that feedback loop, the better and faster you can improve their customer experience.
What obstacles have you seen agencies run into in establishing these environments and then, to your point, in delivering and then measuring the results that they're going after?
There are so many challenges. I mean, these are the world's largest bureaucracies, but maybe just to name a few, especially as you're getting started, I mentioned feedback loops. It's really common that at the same time people are trying to move towards DevSecOps, they're adopting a lot of Agile principles. Neither of these things are new, by the way. Been around for almost 3 decades in the case of Agile and over a decade for DevOps. I think, though, teams often will start by focusing on alignment first. And there's a great paper called Avoiding the Alignment Trap in IT. It's pretty old at this point. But what they showed is that organizations that try to focus on alignment before they have IT efficacy, they get stuck in this upper left quadrant of a 2x2, which is essentially the cost of trying to achieve alignment is so high that by the time they figure out what they want to build, they realize they don't have the path to production. They don't have that feedback loop to actually test all of the assumptions they've come up with. And so it's really important. Every government agency needs to focus on continuous delivery first, but before they move into alignment activities. And those would be things like, a lot of times government organizations will adopt scaled agile framework, which can be very waterfall in nature if not implemented properly. And so before you go about something like that, make sure you can just ship a single change to a single line of code to a single production environment. And if you can do that, now instead of having debates in boardrooms about what you think should be built and how you think you should budget it, you can actually test that in production with your users.
Is that kind of a challenge in and of itself, though, for a government organization, which it sounds to me like you're saying, just start, just try something.
Mhm.
And the nature of a bureaucratic organization like a government agency is, well, we should have a policy in place. We should have a procedure in place. We should have a strategy and so on. And it sounds like those are the ideas at the very core of this that are kind of at odds with each other. Is that a fair read on my part?
It's absolutely fair. And we're not getting into the acquisition side of it either, which further compounds the problem. But I would say that if you focus on continuous delivery first, I tell people that a platform as a service is a prerequisite for DevOps outcomes in government. And the reason for that is we live in a very high compliance environment. when you do get into defense contracting, you're often getting access to vendors who maybe aren't as good at software development as, say, Arise or other modern software firms. And you can lament that reality, but you have to account for it. And so, a really good platform, a DevSecOps platform, is going to give you the ability to build in a lot of the compliance and other types of requirements into your path to production so that teams can get to that initial continuous delivery, right? I said unlock continuous delivery first. The platform as a service with the proper FISMA authority to operate guidelines built into it, with the proper testing procedures and failover and redundancy and records management act, like all of those things can be built into the platform layer so that capability providers can just focus on building and delivering capabilities to customers. And so that's a really important part, even though I said, tools are just a part of the solutions, people, process, and technology and tools. But the sooner you can get that capability in place, the sooner you'll be able to get to the process and the culture change.
The culture change is measurable in what way have you seen? How does one know that one is getting the culture change correct in order to get the outcomes that people are looking for in a DevSecOps environment?
Yeah, the whole point of any culture is to achieve an outcome, right? Whether your culture is a religious one and you're trying to get to heaven, or your culture is a DevOps one and you're trying to deliver. So at the end of the day, there's little things you can measure that are leading indicators, but the real lagging indicator is, are you delivering an effective customer experience? And if you're not, you haven't gotten your culture right yet. It's not possible to have the right culture and then fail to deliver. You're missing something. And so, one thing I'll say on culture change, though, that trips folks up is, I love the story of NUMMI Auto Manufacturing. It was a joint venture between Toyota and GM, and it was the worst performing plant in the United States. It belonged to GM at the time. It was the Fremont Assembly, which, fun fact, is now the site of a Tesla manufacturing facility. But it was so bad there that people were drinking and gambling on the job. They were sabotaging vehicles, like sealing up Coke bottles and doors, things like that. We would call this the worst culture, right? Every CEO's worst nightmare. And GM told Toyota, hey, as part of this joint venture, we'll help you take on the union and get new employees. And Toyota said that wouldn't be necessary. And they just took some of those managers, key leaders, and key frontline employees out to Japan to work in a Toyota production system. And when they came back, it became the highest performing auto manufacturing plant in the United States within a matter of months. In fact, it remained so until the auto manufacturing crisis in 2008. GM was never able to replicate its success. And so, what did Japan do there? What did Toyota do? They didn't, give them a bunch of computer-based training, which is what we like to do in government. Tell people how they should think. Tell them what their culture and value should be. Tell them to go get, Scrum Master certified. They just said, "Hey, come and work with us in a different way." And when you see the results of working in a different way, that will change your values and attitudes. That will change your culture. And to make that happen, to replicate that in, say, your DevOps transformation, there's two things that you have to have. You have to have a working Toyota production system, right? The equivalent of it, which is that DevOps stack that I just mentioned. You have to figure out how to get that in place first. And then you need your Toyota to pair with, right? These new managers from the United States came and paired with people in the Toyota production system. So it wasn't just the technology, but they had pairs who guided them through, said, come work with us in a different way. And so that's the advice I would give agencies is get your Toyota production system equivalent of your DevOps stack in place, and then find somebody who can pair with your employees and not teach them through computer-based training and consulting slide decks, but through delivering real software to users and iterating and doing it again and again and again.
Bryon, it's great to talk to you. Terrific insight. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.